Stealth, the most critical trait of any submarine, coming ahead of all others. Speed, firepower, range, and carrying capacity. Because without the ability to sneak up on others and live to tell about it, a submarine is useless. This is just as true in the 20th century as it is in the 26th, where prowlers carried the legacy of the submarine in the depths of interstellar space. I'm Corporal Hot Pockets, and today we are diving straight into the Prowler's missions and tactics. Resembling bats instead of fish, trading up torpedoes for nukes, and being able to deploy small, covert special operations teams, Prowlers are the true eyes and ears of the fleet, being able to support the rest of the Navy as an advanced recon and sabotage help. Prowlers vary by size and class with the same overall mission, from the Winter class, an oversized dropship, to the Sahara class, the backbone of the Prowler fleet. They are rarely larger than a frigate due to the expensive stealth panels and baffled engines needed to maintain stealth. Despite this, they pack a large punch, carrying autocannons, anti-ship guided missiles, and various nuclear devices. However, they typically lack max, as the power requirements and internal space are too badly needed, and the slugs would be very visible when fired, giving away a Prowler's location. Their main action in the fleet is being attached to expeditionary battle groups ahead of the main force to gather intelligence and deploy nuclear minefields in advantageous areas, giving a massive advantage to the UNSC fleet when on the attack. An example of Prowlers used as such are when the UNSC Wink of an Eye was sent ahead of Admiral Cole's Battle Group India, the biggest UNSC fleet assembled at that moment, with more than 200 ships. The Prowler observed critical information about the Covenant fleet, the planet's orbit, and even its atmosphere and composition, allowing Cole to pull off a masterpiece, destroying well over 300 enemy ships. Another is when the Dusk found the shield-rolled Onyx in the Covenant fleet there, and sent the information to Admiral Patterson's battle group, allowing him to formulate a plan to destroy their fleet. She also had a more direct role in assisting the battle group, laying mines which vaporized 12 enemy ships, and sending radio probes to bounce the fleet's signal across the planet's skirt for better communication. However, this also shows a Prowler's weakness, as the Dusk was nearly discovered, and would have been both completely defenseless and incapable of outrunning her pursuers due to the limitations on a Prowler space frame needed to be stealth. Prowlers can also perform strategic sabotage actions, being independent of any regular naval unit or engagement, and being used to attack enemy supply lines and fixed targets on a much larger scale. The main time this was seen was when Task Force Yama was involved in Operation Silent Storm. In this engagement, about a dozen typical Prowlers were used, divided into 3 squadrons, each having several Razor and Eclipse class light Prowlers to do the dirty work, and 1 Sahara class heavy Prowler to act as squadron lead, with the task force as a whole being headquartered on the Point Blank class stealth cruiser, the largest Prowler class vessel ever created, which was nearly the size of a destroyer, armed with a Mac, and used to command Prowler fleets or as a secretive headquarters for the highest ranking ONI and Navy officers. The operation, taking place in the opening months of the Great War, consisted of Prowlers and the 21st Space Assault Battalion, a special operations ODST unit used for covert orbital combat, reinforced by a dozen Spartans. This operation showed both the strengths and weaknesses of Prowlers. On several different occasions, Prowlers used their stealth, which was even superior to that of the Covenant, to sneak up on valuable targets and destroy them using nukes or sending boarding parties, halting the Covenant's advance dead in its tracks. They also raided a Covenant planet with a massive ring structure and 10 Forerunner cities of immense value, both strategic and dogmatic, acting as a major supply base for the Covenant's advance. Their tactics were completely unfamiliar to the Covenant, forcing them to halt and reevaluate their own strategy, and causing the desertion of the Fleetmaster in the area, losing the Covenant a valuable lead. However, Prowlers were extremely weak to any direct fire, and for the ones lost, there was little chance of rescue for the cruising troops due to the secretive and asymmetric nature of combat, leading to hundreds of deaths and dozens of POWs to face horrific torture and death at the hands of the brutes. Additionally, because of the Prowler Corps' smaller and more compartmentalized nature compared to the rest of the Navy, and less rigid adherence to traditional protocols of promotion, a flight leader was able to desert along with 4 of his Prowlers and their equipment by staffing the key positions with men loyal to him and killing everyone else on board. But while the losses on both the Prowler crews and ODSTs were massive, they paled in comparison to those of the Covenant, losing several fleets and the critical supply base with the Forerunner cities, and the early momentum of the war gained after the glassing of Harvest, even with the internal sabotage affecting the Prowlers. And the mission was complete with no Spartan casualties, which would be invaluable in the war to come. The example set by this and subsequent operations was that of extreme competence for most Prowlers throughout the next 3 decades. This was due in part because of their intimate affiliation with ONI. As stated earlier, Prowlers were crewed by the Prowler Corps, a section of ONI crewed by veteran Navy personnel, as well as ONI operatives, to guarantee oversight and competence in the most extreme and sensitive situations. Aside for individual reconnaissance for battle groups and strategic sabotage on a larger scale, Prowlers were often the preferred method of transportation for ONI's most secretive and potent operatives, often conducting very secretive and asymmetric engagements, all to further ONI's goals and interests. Because of this, Prowlers are often the delivery method of choice for the UNSC's most elite troops, including Spartans. In some special circumstances, whole Prowlers would be given to a team with no dedicated crew, being perfectly run by the smart AI who accompany these extremely valuable units. An example of such is the Port Stanley, operated by Kilo 5, a small covert patchwork team made up of 3 ODSTs, a smart AI, several engineers, a Spartan 2, and a Spartan 2 washout leading the operation, a certain Captain Saren Osman. This unit was created immediately after the end of the Covenant War, with the mission to destabilize the elite remnants and foster civil war between them so that they could never rise up against humanity. This was done by providing them with weapons and equipment and taking out priority targets, with the ship being used for the entirety of the operation. It even took place in the opening settling of the Onyx shield globe, later renamed Trevelyan, as well as taking out a potential threat with the battlecruiser Pious Inquisitor falling in the hands of a renegade human. The Port Stanley was a Sahara-class heavy prowler and was utilized to its maximum and handled very well. It used its dropships, powerful comms equipment, and hard-hitting nukes, and succeeded in every situation it encountered. Another example of Prowlers being used in such a manner was with Grey Team in particular, the most independent Spartan 2 team, who had a Prowler operated solely by them in their deep behind enemy lines operations. The Prowler's low profile, good FTL, and large weapon storage made them more practical than a traditional Corvette or a Condor for Grey Team's unique needs. And because of their direct association with both ONI and Spartans, Prowlers have been found in some of the most intense and exotic moments of the war. One of these examples was when the Prowler UNSC Red Horse was investigating the remains of Alpha Halo during the closing months of the war. It came across a derelict human ship, the Mona Lisa, which seemed abandoned. A boarding party was sent with nebulous orders and initially only encountered unarmored Covenant troops. After diving deeper, however, they found something far, far worse. The ship had a full flood infestation that had claimed all but 2 of the original human inhabitants, with the proto-grave mine and centralized intelligence being made, and the engines nearly being hot-wired, allowing for FTL travel to a human world. This had happened due to a breach when the flood, present on captured Covenant troops recovered from the ring, was intentionally spread to human prisoners on board. This was done on the orders of an ONI operative present in an attempt to use the flood to make super soldiers to fight the Covenant. The Red Horse was intentionally sent out to find and evaluate the current state of the Mona Lisa and the progress of its experiment, the true mission details and knowledge of the flood known only to the AI Rebecca, who determined when and with whom to share the knowledge when she wanted, despite nominally being under the captain's authority. And the last special circumstance was the Midsummer Night. She started her life as a traditional Star Wars-class light frigate, before undergoing a refit to give her the stealth properties of a Prowler, making her the only ship known to undergo this process. She also became the second largest type of Prowler, only smaller than the Point Blank class. Her mission was to perform behind enemy lines actions and to slow down the Covenant siege of the inner colonies. In the upcoming campaign, she showed her value and advantage over the rest of the Prowler fleet, in firepower, defense, and carrying capacity. Her MAC and large missile complement was used to great effect, while her hull took plasma strikes, missile impacts, and kinetic slugs, damage that could annihilate any group of Prowlers used in her place. She also carried a large number of ODSTs and Marines and enough Pelicans to transport them throughout the engagement. While she was ultimately destroyed due to her damages, she lasted long enough to complete the mission, which was the evacuation of 1 million refugees from a glass world, as well as stopping the Covenant threat temporarily. Prowlers have not only proven their namesake, quietly sneaking up to an enemy's back, but their lineage as the true inheritors of the legacy of the submarine, taking its strengths and characteristics from the depths of Earth's oceans to the void of interstellar space. And again, if you want a more general look at Prowlers and their organization as a whole, check out TeamAncila's video, link downstairs. If you like my video, press the big red button to eradicate all the Xenos, and press the Liberty Bell to replace it with America. This has been Corporal Hot Pockets, showing you what the ladies like, one lesson at a time. And remember, keep driving forward unto dawn, Spartans.